Hello everyone, my name is Ira. I'm a self-taught digital artist and it's October! A month-long challenge. A month of challenges. Be it Inktober, Drawtober, or any other challenge you want to do, October is known for art challenges in the art community, and I usually like to join these. This year, my supporters, which you can become one too by the way, for just €1 you can get everything I'm drawing in high quality, behind the scenes, whips, announcements, and everything related to my art career on Patreon. So make sure you support me so I am able to do this full time. Thank you. This October my supporters chose 31 styles for 31 days. That is a challenge I came up with where I'm going to study a artist or a piece of media like a game or a movie or whatever every single day to see what I can learn and to see how my own style is going to improve at the end of the month. So without further ado, let's start with this week's 7 studies. And so we are starting with Overwatch as my first study. I decided to not go super very crazy and just use the character avatars to draw something in a similar style. Now, the avatars in Overwatch, it's a blend between new and old. Some of them are updated from the 2D style. Some of them are in the 3D style that we have in game. My goal was to aim for that 2D, very specific style and stylization that they are using. I grabbed all the avatars. You can't download them on the internet, but you can download them one by one from the patch notes, which I did. And I started to analyze a little bit the proportions. For this challenge, I'm going to draw my OC. Her name is Amira, and I haven't drawn her in literal decade. I feel old, and I decided because she used to be the OC, whenever I will be into a new kind of media, I would go to Ami and I would adapt her to the new universe, and that's why I chose her. Overwatch was complicated and actually very difficult to start with. The anatomy and the stylization of these pictures are very specific. I tried to follow the guidelines. I'm checking the nose proportions. It seems that women in general have the nose a little bit smaller than it should be. I didn't do very well on the first iteration, so I tried to freehand another one next to it. The point here was that she is looking down, and I don't know what happened with me, but I just couldn't get the angle right at all, and I drew this so many times. I just liquefied it into oblivion. I drew it so many times until I finally got to something that I kinda liked. I mean, in this universe would be a thief, but not the general kind of thief. She would be more of the Robin Hood trope where she would steal to give others. As you know, all the Overwatch characters have a country of origin, and hers is Romania. Therefore, her new name is gonna be Irina Dinu. I actually didn't know I'm gonna draw Ami. I was just doodling something with the hair, and then I realized, hey, why not draw her? And that's where the hair came in, and it just clicked. I love the idea. I'm going to draw her in every single study. I can't wait. Now, her personality is quite rebellious. Like, I made her when I was a teen. Of course, she's the rebel teen, not angsty, but very, very fiery. Her thing is a fire. And she was my first OC. She also is the inspiration of my current persona, Ira. And well, they are different because Ira is a little bit more me than Ami is. When I was younger, I was Ami. Like, she was me. My idealized version of myself. I framed the portrait the way all of them are framed with a white background, and I tried to add some elements of her outfit, which you can see in pretty much all of them. Because this is just a portrait, there are a lot of things I can get away with. I don't have to design a full outfit, which was in my benefit. What I did want to incorporate shapes that will tell her story, that she's agile, that she's probably she's gonna be a DPS with one utility attack. I made the shape of her hoodie sharp edges show agility or cunningness or stuff like that, which she is. And then I pulled out a traditional Romanian blouse. It's called Ie in Romanian, and I wanted a design that brings her to the Romanian side. Whenever you want to design Romanian characters, remember the traditional attire, it's actually different based on the region of the country. The female characters in Overwatch have pretty small mouths and pretty neutral facial expressions, so I wanted to have that too. I wanted her to feel cheeky, I wanted her to feel playful and a little bit mysterious. That was her point. She's making her own gadgets and she's using that to help the citizens against the government who is starving people. I'm not saying that's happening in Romania. This is just the story of Overwatch. Now with more attention to the proportions and no crazy angles. That was my mistake. Studying doesn't mean I need to go all out on crazy angles. I just need to draw the right proportions and the right vibe. You're going to see me adding these thingies on her eyes to have the idea of the clown makeup, and that is because she's the trickster, she's the one going against the rules to push the archetype that she's supposed to be. Then I actually decided to give her a prosthetic eye. That is for a reason. Overwatch characters, almost all of them, have something techie about them, even if she was at this moment pretty normal looking, pretty civilian looking. And while that I think can be a strength because she can stand out against the roster, she still needed something to point that she is one, part of this futuristic world, and two, able to fight or to do something for Overwatch. The older style of the Overwatch portraits actually use very distinctive line weight, and I try to emulate that a bit more than the 3D style. Her hair is very messy, but the Overwatch style is very, the hairs are divided into chunks. I also was thinking while doing the details on her face, how they would play out in skin lines, and I think that's really cute. Imagine a skin where the team is something like candies, I don't know, and instead of these badges on her face, she will have candy stickers. I think that can work well. I gave up on the design inside the squares and just left this small pattern that actually has two meanings now. One is for the Romanians, and two, it's actually looking patchy, which I liked because it adds to her self-made Robin Hood persona. The general color schemes used for Overwatch, as far as I could see, use pretty muted colors and one striking color. For her will be her hair. A lot of older portraits actually have this texture on them. I'm trying to emulate that. I think the best part of this is the shining on the nose. I think that really pulls together the Overwatch vibe. Looking back, I think the markings on her face could be metal. I could have done that. And that was my Overwatch study. What do you think? And let me know if she looks like part of the team. As my second day, I have Arcane, and Arcane is so widely loved for its style, and I think Arcane contributed a lot to how people draw today by reminding them that this stylization is and can look amazing. They use, in my opinion, mainly the Asaro head. Like always, I tried to see a little bit of their proportions and then draw my own thing. The most important things with Arcane style, in my opinion, are the eyes, with the eyebrows included, and the mouth. There is a lot of emotion in their eyes and in their mouth, and that's what I'm trying to get here. I'm trying to get the emotion and the general shape of the face. The emotion in her face was supposed to be fear, but also determination at the same time, because the story is that she is a enforcer that was given a order she refused to do, and that can have many outcomes. Will she be kicked out, or will she be gaining respect for her choice? The idea with her was that she would be the scapegoat for us to discover more about the enforcers from within, for people like Loris, assuming we have time to do that. I kept changing, I kept adding. I wanted her to feel different than Maddie, which was a bit difficult because both are ginger, both the enforcers, but that is the beauty in this. I kept this one pretty rough because doing the exact rendering of the Arcane will take a lot of time, and this is still supposed to be a daily challenge. I gave her a weapon, holding it in fear but also in protest. Everything is mostly just cleaning up the line art until I like what I have in front of me. I think I got that expression pretty nicely. That might be like the best part of this. Eyes in Arcane are so specific because they don't have that airbrush detail to them. The shiny part of the eye are so 2D, it's striking, and I think that is on purpose because the eyes are the emotion. And next it comes with colors. The colors in Arcane are pretty muted compared to other mediums. I don't have anything else to say about this. It's mostly just rendering and trying to get the hair and the face. Everything changed a little bit when I added the color to her face. And at the very end, to push the vibe, I added Ambassador's shadow to make sure we understand who Amira was in that moment. So let me know what you think. I think the Arcane one is pretty decent, but I could have done better on the hair. I don't think the hair is really it, and I also will need more time to render everything else. Ilya Kuvshinov, I hope I'm saying that right. It's a Russian artist known for drawing very beautiful female characters with very soft and feminine features, as well as very strong pops of color. Ilya has been an artist that, even if I didn't know his name, as a teen when I was drawing my OCs, he was a big inspiration, and I would often awe at his works and the way he would draw his portraits. To start off, I noticed in the process videos, a lot of his works start with this grid of thirds where he places initially the most important feature of his works, the eyes. Therefore, that's what I started with as well. His features are very stylized while keeping a pretty semi-realistic approach. The way I've drawn Amira is usually with big eyes, so this style would fit her pretty well. I tried to keep this a little bit dramatic angle without making it too much. That's how he usually does his works. At the moment, I thought the biggest challenge would be the hair because usually he's drawing black-haired characters. Amira has a bright orange hair, so I was curious how that is going to translate into his style. I studied the rule of thirds and how he places his features along the lines. I tried to keep the same shape of the face, which is pretty important because it's kinda the only harsh contour you see in the picture. And then the hair, which is a blend between sharp and formless style. As you can see, I actually kept the liner colored. I noticed all his sketches have colors because he's usually keeping the line work into his final piece. So I try to use the same kind of pinks and blues. My contour is very chicken scratchy compared to his, but I'm just testing the waters and testing how everything looks in order to fit his style. And then I started to put down the colors. In the breakdown he had posted, the colors are very muted at first, and the magic comes a lot from blending modes. I used so many blending modes in this picture. I think it's pretty cool the way he discovered this style and made it so perfect that he could easily put out if you wanted a portrait per day. And like I said, the biggest factor of his art to make it look like his art are the eyes. The striking colors and the focus and the eye contact most of the time, the black used for the eyebrows and the eyelashes, everything is sending you first to the eyes and then to explore the rest of the features. And once I was happy with the colors set in and the selection of crazy colors going around, I started to play with the layer modes, and that is where everything came to life. I often duplicated the layer and I blurred the entire picture and then set it on 50%. I think that helped with the soft vibe of his works. Then I added towards the end, I added a bit of texture over the face. I noticed his picture actually has a paper texture, which I don't, so I thought adding this onto her face is going to help, and I actually really like how it looks like, even if he usually doesn't do this type of texture on the face. And this is the end of the picture. I added a little bit more pink because his works are often pink. I think I did a pretty good job, and I think it actually fits Amira pretty well. Pokemon! Who doesn't know Pokemon? Everybody does, and today I'm going to try the Pokemon style. The Pokemon style is very nicely broken down into shapes, and even if the shapes are simple at first, they actually get pushed, and there are a lot of curves that you wouldn't expect from such a simple art style. I started, of course, by analyzing the proportions a little bit and trying to make my own. The idea of Ami in this universe is that she's a trainer who doesn't really like following the rules of the arenas, and that can create some fun interactions with the main characters who do want to follow the rules. For her team of Pokemons, what I wanted to go for is the misfits, as edgy as that might sound. The Pokemons that people don't really use or underutilize, either because they're different, or they are a bit strange, or they are just difficult to use. What I really liked about this design is that initially I selected, you don't see the layers, but I've selected the Pokemons first. I searched up the Pokemons that are a little bit on the misfit part, and then towards the end, when I'm starting to add the colors to her design, they actually fit her design so well. It was a nice surprise, and I was pretty stoked about it. The Pokemon designs are very specific in the details. They put so much detail in the shoes, which I don't like drawing, so I kinda struggle a little bit with them throughout this entire process. I wanted the same kinda cheeky attitude and vibe, just, I'm keeping Amira as much as I can alive while drawing her in these different universes. The biggest thing about Pokemon that I noticed is that the focal point is, of course, the head, and most of the trainers have some detail on their head that picks your focus, be it a very strange hair, or a accessory like a hat or a bandana or something like that, or highlights like very bright drops of color onto their hair, something that needs to be eye-catchy to the head. Another detail that I really like about Pokemon, which you wouldn't really think at first, is that their faces are quite specific. Of course, Pokemon has their style, their specific style and proportions, but their expressions and their faces are still very unique to each character. So, Amira had to stand out as her own character while still feeling like a Pokemon. For that, I actually took out the scar because I didn't see anyone with the scar in the Pokemon world. So instead, to put that scar still symbolically there, I cut her eyebrow and I gave her these very big spiky lashes, which I think pulled the idea that she's who she is. For her outfit, I wanted something very chill but still a little bit on the punkish side. That's just how she's usually dressing. I designed a couple of outfits for her to see how it would look like, and while I liked the big puffy jacket, I still went back to this two-piece outfit. I really liked the flow of it, and I added the braid just to have a little bit more focus there on the head. As a predominantly anime style, the line art, it's very simple, very cohesive everywhere. There's very little to almost no line weight. I went through some refining stages of the line art just because I am not as precise as an animator. I did try to keep in mind a little bit the concept of can she be animated. The details, even if they are there and they are busy, for example the shoes with the stickers and the very comically large shoelaces, I still think they are clean enough to be animated in a way that's not bothering the animation. And now you see all the Pokemons I selected for her prior to this design. I was trying to actually match the sizes of them from the Pokédex onto, like, roughly, very roughly, to match the sizes, to place them around the page. Like, graphic design is my passion. And then onto the colors. The colors of Pokemon are usually very pale. For her skin, I went with a even paler color than what the other trainers have. I wanted to play into the sick vibe a little bit, and the idea of her design is that as the Pokemons she's training, she looks a little bit edgy and bad and all that stuff, but she may even start as a small villain, maybe like a rival or whatever, but she's actually a very kind and very upbeat person despite her appearance, which fits with the "don't judge a book by its cover" also for the Pokemons that she's using. Another thing I had to keep in mind while designing her colors is that Pokemon, being also a animated show, had very strong contrast, and everything on her needs to be read as a different element. So I made sure to keep that in mind, and I checked the values with every color I put down. Then the shadows. The shadows are surprisingly not as minimal as I thought. They are placed in very strategical places, and there is a little bit of softness to them, which I tried to do. In the end, I didn't like the skin. It was looking a bit too dead, so I added a little bit of shine to it. I fixed some proportions towards the end when I flipped the camera, and that is the Pokemon design. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you'd find her interesting. It Takes Two, a wonderful, wonderful and beautiful game to play with your friends or your partner. I've played the game myself and I fell in love with the universe, with the idea, with the designs, so creative and so unique. So trying to get to this style is not going to be easy. While drawing, I had two objectives in mind. First of all, to nail the shape and the proportions that are very specific to this game and to this art style, and two, to nail the colors. If you are looking at the characters, the color schemes are very intentional and very compelling. So I had to do something similar while keeping the very feel-good vibe and making the character feel as itself. The point is that It Takes Two doesn't necessarily translate the way the humans look into reality as they look as puppets. I had a bit of a struggle to choose if I want to make Ami a redhead or not. It doesn't have to be, she didn't have to be a redhead, but until then it was about design. And in my head, the game that's going to revolve around Amira is going to be called It Takes Us, and it's the story of a older sister with her younger brother navigating the generational traumas and the generational habits that their family installed in them, and learning to learn from them and break them in ways that doesn't demonize necessarily the parents, because it's not always their fault. But I think the story can create the sort of emotional roller coaster, and the lessons that the game It Takes Two had and showed us, I think it's going to be a interesting continuation, if I can say so myself, while having interesting characters. So Ami here is going to have the older sister vibe. I tried to have her still very fun and very interesting to play as. She's going to be the character that's mostly the one head on and getting her hands dirty, and learning through this that she's not always the one that needs to take the lead, that she herself is prone to do what she criticizes in her own family if she's not paying attention to it. As for design, I think I did a pretty good job to translate the puppet style into a 2D. I won't be rendering this until the end because that will take way too long, but once I was happy with the lines and the design itself, I started to color it. The wood part was easy because it was pretty much the same for everybody, and then I started with the colors. That is where it took a bit of tries until I was happy with the color scheme that had not only to follow the style of the game. If you're looking at them, they follow some sort of pattern. They use two colors mainly two colors, and anything else is just a different hue or different shade of those colors. And then once I was happy with the colors I chose, I started to render it a little bit just to give it some depth. And as a final step, I added some texture because the game is heavily textured, and added some big lights just to make it come a bit to life. So let me know what you think. I think I kinda nailed it. Of course, it's not going to be identical because it's much less detailed than the games are, but it was surprisingly easy and fun to design something this simple and at the same time this intricate. Fullmetal Alchemist, the classic, the masterpiece in so many people's hearts. I watched this anime when I was younger. The first one I watched when I think I wasn't even a teen, and then recently, like 2 years ago, I watched the Brotherhood version, and I don't think Fullmetal Alchemist needs any introduction. So let's go straight into the design. Fullmetal Alchemist is a obviously anime style that has a blend of specific old anime vibe and their own designs. The eyes and the placement of the eyes is very important in Fullmetal Alchemist. The hair, it has that spiky anime style. It's much more detailed and quite realistic in some aspects than other old anime. And another thing that really stands out to me in Fullmetal Alchemist is that the characters have a lot of diverse features. Like even in the picture that you see me referencing, the facial structure is similar, but almost all of them have a different eye shape that makes them stand out. For Amira, I chose her features to be a little bit inspired by Ed's because their personalities are quite similar in the aspect that they are both headstrong, they are both quite impulsive, but I also didn't want her to necessarily feel like a main character because she was not supposed to be. In this universe, Amira is a alchemist that's using her powers to clean and help after a fight or something like that happens. She's very against the government and the military power, not because of what they're doing, but because they sometimes treat citizens as collateral damage, and she's against that. She's also teaching people basic alchemy because she's of the belief that everybody can and should know it, and it's not just a weapon. This is going to create, within the universe, is going to create quite some drama and some friction between the main cast and her, which, you know, can be explored and can be cool to see. I actually had her having this scar over her eye, but I took that out later. And her hair, it's a little bit difficult because Fullmetal Alchemist has that old anime thing where when you turn the head, it grows in order to show volume, but they don't have it as bad as other old animes, so I had to find a good blend in here. For her clothes, it's very simple, just her research notes and very on-the-go outfit. And then I continued to clean out the line art. Line art, it's very simple, it's just a basic, almost no pressure anime style. And after I inked everything, I started with the colors, which were a little bit difficult because of their specific vibration that's in the anime. I tried to find something that still shows her who she is, like her red hair. If I was just putting a bright orange hair, she would have stood out way too much in a way that I didn't want to. So I opted for this brown reddish hair color, which I think after the entire picture is done, you're going to see that actually does the job. Every color is super muted and super desaturated, and the shadows are in between detailed and just where it's necessary. I honestly struggled more with the colors than with the shadow, and what made it actually feel like the anime was a yellow overlay. I don't know why, it just gave that little boost to feel exactly like a screenshot. So this was the Fullmetal Alchemist. I really am in love with her hair. I think I managed to capture the vibe of her hair as well as the style of the anime, and I really like the face too. She's a little bit annoyed, a little bit don't talk to me vibe, which is interesting to explore in a episode or setting or something like that. Kindle isn't just powered by fire. Her body is an echo of the multiverse tier itself. When the time stream entanglement fractured the realities, she was caught at ground zero of a cosmic star, where overlapping timelines ignited into raw energy. Instead of dying, she absorbed the cascade of collapsing worlds, her existence forever bound to unstable remnants of timelines. Kindle wields unstable light torn from the cracks between realities. She finds to mend what the multiverse broke, burning away pieces of herself so others can endure. To her allies, she's a beacon. To her enemies, she's a reminder that every flame leaves behind a scar. Did you like my attempt at a bio? Amira in this universe is a original character made by Marvel Rivals. This is all for fun, by the way, don't assume it's not true. Wielding incandescent images of broken worlds taken shape. Basically, she's using something that looks like fire but has a very incandescent imagery to it that flickers like a glitch. Marvel Rivals has a very interesting art style that blends iconic comic style into 3D forms. Drawing in this style was a full-on trust process, because at the very beginning I had no idea what I'm doing. I thought initially that it's going to be easy, and then it wasn't easy, and then it became easy again. The biggest issues with this style for me were that one, I needed to make her feel not similar to Luna Snow because they have already a similar hair shape, and two, to make her fit the idolized superhero cast that Marvel Rivals has already going on. And on top of that was also the fact that Amira is not part of MCU, so I had no backdrop to look at. I wanted her to feel civilian and epic, and after a little bit of research I decided to go with this Red Riding Hood aesthetic because her story is basically a unwilling hero. Like, she didn't expect to become a hero, it's just circumstances happened and she became the main character of her own story. The name Kindle is, in my head, given by others while she still discovers the whole superhero thing. Mainly because she looks like a candle and, you kindle the candle, and also because of the whole entire spark idea. I initially wanted to have two versions of this drawing, one of the normal icon and one of the hovering options, that is what you see in all the references on the page, but due to it still being a daily challenge I ended up only doing one. But let me know if you would like to see the action version as well. Marvel Rivals has this style that is almost sketchy while being rendered as a 3D item, and towards the end I tried to add some texture to elevate a bit the flat 2D feel I had. The line art is both very minimal and visually present. You see it, and sometimes they even accentuate it by having sketchy lines around the character to emphasize that comic feel. Colors are saturated and the light seems messy, but it's still very precise. This is a style I wasn't expecting to enjoy this much. I can't really say more about it than the fact that I just tried to copy what I'm seeing. As design cues, Amira, besides the Red Riding Hood aspect, she has this broken pocket watch that she wears as a necklace that is going to be part of her power. The moment the collapsing worlds hit, that is where the time stopped for her, so the watch is both a metaphor and an anchor of her powers within the Marvel universe. I put a lot of pockets or like the zippers to show the idea of a pocket because of the pocket world, and her powers will be using different versions of herself from different timelines to make different kind of attacks. She's going to be a strategist that heals people but also can stand her own ground. She's kind of similar to Phoenix, but of course with some changes. Her ultimate will be something similar to Phoenix, but instead of going upwards in a blaze of flames, she would tear herself open and the entirety of multiverse timelines collapsing into one and all that gimmicky stuff. She will be stationary, she would burn out, while the people around her would get increased healing and maybe a shield or something like that. Maybe even dealing damage to enemies at the same time. Maybe. That will be the concept. If I were to design this again, I think I will change her outfit. While I like the symbolism a little bit, I don't know if I love the outfit itself that much. So if I were to design this character for real, with real abilities and all of that, I will definitely change her outfit. So let me know what you think about Kindle. And that marks the end of week 1. Let me know what you think about Styletober. This challenge is so interesting but so tiring at the same time. I am tired already, but I will try my best to continue and to provide the rest of the days. For some of you who are wondering why Styletober and not something like Drawtober or Inktober, that is because as a character designer, you are supposed to be able to adapt to a variety of art styles, and I thought, why not make it a whole challenge about it? So this is why I chose this challenge for October, and I was very stoked to hear that my supporters liked this and voted for it as well. As a reminder, I am posting every single day, every single picture. You can find me on Twitter, on Tumblr, on Blue Sky, and you can find the pictures on YouTube on the community posts as well. I am posting on here for everybody who can't be on other social media, and the processes, you can find them on my Patreon. Early access to each individual process. Thank you for the support, thank you for your time, and I'll see you next week with 7 more styles. Bye bye!